Devil Is Due second, American Chance, and that did it decisively. He beat Devil Is Due by 6.
This story begins with two labels that should have ended everything: Addict, Infertile. Jerry Bailey carried a private fight that could have cost him every elite mount. Cigar carried a future that could not be passed on, a champion with no foals to copy his greatness. Neither looked like destiny at first. Bailey was one rider in a ruthless business of weight cuts and closed doors. Cigar was talented, but not yet feared. Then Aqueduct changed the sport. Bailey got the call, climbed aboard, and the stretch run started to look inevitable. Wins became a streak. A season turned perfect. The pressure followed them across continents, right into history. And when the streak finally cracked, the grandstand learned racing's hardest truth: even legends can be beaten. Jerry Bailey was born in Dallas, Texas, and learned early that racing rewards repetition more than applause. As a teenager, he rode quarter horses, then stepped into thoroughbred racing at 17. The backstretch taught him the real rules: make weight, show up before dawn, and stay sharp when a split-second decision decides the trip. Bailey did not build his reputation on bravado. He built it on preparation. He watched how a field would sort itself into the first turn, who would press the pace, who would take back, and where the clean lane might open late. He treated every ride like a problem to solve, not a gamble to survive. That mindset carried him into the biggest barns, but it also left him alone with pressure. It was pressure that would test his private life long before the public saw victory again. On the surface, Jerry Bailey kept collecting wins and earning better mounts. Off the surface, the schedule kept tightening. The scale in the morning, the gate in the afternoon, the travel at night, then waking up to do it again. In that grind, alcohol stopped feeling like a choice and started feeling like relief. It dulled nerves, then demanded more space until it threatened the one thing a jockey cannot lose: control. Racing punishes uncertainty. Owners and trainers want a rider they can trust, with $1 million decision at full speed. Bailey understood that if his private struggle became public, the best opportunities would disappear. So he carried it quietly, even as his name rose. Then he faced the turning point. He committed to sobriety and took responsibility one day at a time. People around the sport noticed the change. The mind that read pace and riders so well finally turned that same discipline inward, and it set the stage for the mount that would rewrite his career. Cigar was foaled in 1990, bred for dirt, but his early career did not look like a future legend. He had ability, yet he was not putting fear into a division. As a 3-year-old, he ran in solid company without delivering the kind of headline performances that change how barns plan their season. For a while, he was asked to do his work on turf, and the breakthrough never fully arrived. The talk around him cooled. He looked like a good horse searching for the right stage. Then his path shifted to Bill Mott, a trainer known for patience and precision. Mott focused on fitness, rhythm, and placing a horse where he could travel comfortably and finish with power. Late in 1994, back on dirt at Aqueduct, Cigar stopped looking ordinary. He won with separation, the kind that makes horsemen lean forward. The question changed from how good is he to who can stop him. One more piece remained: the rider who could turn that engine into history. At Aqueduct, the sport can change with a single phone call. Cigar had just shown a new gear on dirt, and Bill Mott needed the right pilot for the next start. In racing, riders and mounts move like pieces on a board. One jockey chooses another horse. An agent makes a call. A chance opens for someone ready. Bailey did not wait for an invitation. He made it clear he was available, and he understood what he was asking for. This was not an ordinary stakes ride. This was a horse that could control pace, relax, and still finish like a sprinter. The day of the New York Racing Association Mile in 1994, Bailey climbed aboard and rode with patience. He kept Cigar comfortable, saved ground, and asked at the right moment. Cigar powered clear. The partnership was set. From that point, when Cigar entered the gate, fans expected Bailey, and rivals expected the same cold, perfect trip. Once Bailey and Cigar linked up, the wins started to feel repeatable. Cigar did not need chaos or a perfect setup. He could break clean, settle just off the leaders, and cruise with his ears up, saving energy while others fought the pace. That is the kind of horse that turns a race into a lesson. Bailey matched him with discipline. He did not chase early speed. He measured it. He kept Cigar out of trouble, protected him from being boxed in, and waited until the moment the field began to tire. Then he would ask for a long, steady run that never looked rushed. Rivals hated that style because it left them no obvious weakness to attack. If they went fast, Cigar sat behind and pounced. If they went slow, Cigar could still finish. The streak was not luck. It was a pattern built on control. Each win added weight in the saddlecloth, more eyes in the grandstand, and more pressure in the barn, and they kept delivering. In 1995, the partnership stopped being a streak and became a takeover. Cigar did not just win. He won like a horse who could answer any question a race asked. If the pace was sharp, he settled and waited. If the pace was soft, he moved early and made it honest. Jerry Bailey kept him in rhythm, saving ground, avoiding traffic, and never turning the race into a wrestling match. That year, Cigar went 10 for 10, perfect from start to finish. The stops were not soft targets. They were Grade 1 races, the highest level of stakes racing, where champions are supposed to trade titles and expose weaknesses. Instead, Cigar made the circuit feel predictable. He opened with the Don Handicap, then rolled through the Gulfstream Park Handicap and the Oaklawn Handicap. He took the Pimlico Special, then went west and claimed the Hollywood Gold Cup. Back in New York, he captured the Woodward Stakes and the Jockey Club Gold Cup, two races that define older champions. 8 of those wins were Grade 1, and the division stopped feeling competitive when gates opened. By the time the Breeders' Cup Classic arrived, it felt less like a question and more like a public appointment. Bailey waited until the field began to tire. When the lane opened, Cigar lengthened his stride and separated again, stopping the clock in 1 minute, 59 and 58 hundredths for 1 1/4 miles. The next step was bigger than a new track. It was a new continent. In early 1996, Cigar shipped to Dubai for the first Dubai World Cup, a race built to bring the best runners onto one stage. Travel can dull a horse. New air, new feed, new routine, and a new surface can turn confidence into hesitation. Bailey treated it like any other assignment. Break clean, find position, keep rhythm, and wait for the moment the field begins to labor. Cigar delivered. He proved the champion belonged anywhere, even under different lights and unfamiliar conditions. Back home, the streak became a countdown. Every start carried the same question. Could anyone catch him before he reached 16 straight, the modern benchmark that tied Citation, one of racing's most famous champions? Television crews followed them. Rival barns studied pace charts and planned for one problem: finding a way to make Cigar uncomfortable without destroying their own chances. The pressure was not just for the public. It lived in the barn, in training mornings, in every soundness check, and in every plan to avoid a rough trip. When Cigar kept winning, the races felt less like contests and more like deadlines. History was getting closer, and the next gate would not feel like any other. On a warm August afternoon at Del Mar, the streak walked into the gate like a certainty. Cigar had reached 16 straight wins, matching Citation, and every seat in the grandstand carried the same expectation. Jerry Bailey broke clean, settled into his usual stalking spot, and waited for the race to unfold the way it always seemed to. But racing does not reward assumptions. The pace did not collapse. The traffic did not part on command. A fresh rival found his rhythm, and the surface that once felt effortless began to feel a fraction slower under Cigar's feet. Bailey asked, and Cigar answered with heart. Yet the answer was not enough. Dare and Go swept past and held him safe at the wire. For a moment, the crowd did not know how to react. People had come to witness history extend, not to watch it stop. That is why the loss landed harder than an ordinary defeat. It forced everyone to remember what dominance can hide. Champions are still horses. They have days when their best is not perfect, and when small margins turn into a result that looks impossible in advance. Bailey and Cigar walked back as legends, but now they were also mortal. The sport exhaled, and the myth became a memory. Yet the defeat did not erase the run. It sharpened it, turning every earlier victory into proof, and every later appearance into a farewell for fans. After Del Mar, Cigar was still a world-class horse, but the races felt different. The fear factor was gone, and rivals stopped running as if they were already beaten. Bill Mott kept him in the top company, and Bailey stayed loyal to the same patient style, protecting the trip and saving energy for the stretch. Cigar responded with professionalism. He came back to win again, reminding everyone that one loss does not erase greatness. But the calendar was catching up. The travel, the hard races, and the constant scrutiny had a cost. In his final starts, he still fought, yet the domination had softened into something more familiar, a champion measured in lengths instead of headlines. By the time he made his last appearance in the Breeders' Cup Classic, he was no longer the unstoppable force from the year before. He was a proven veteran taking one more shot at the sport's biggest stage, and the era was clearly winding down. When Cigar retired, the sport expected the usual next chapter. A horse that dominant should pass greatness forward. Instead, the legend turned into an irony. Cigar proved infertile at stud, meaning the bloodline so many people wanted simply did not continue. The horse who had carried a whole era could not leave it behind in the breeding shed. So, his legacy took a different form. He became a living monument, a champion fans could still see and touch, not through offspring, but through memory. He spent his retirement at Kentucky Horse Park, where visitors came for the same reason they once filled grandstands. They wanted to stand near the animal who made winning look inevitable. Age still wins in the end. In his later years, Cigar battled severe arthritis in his neck. After surgery, complications followed, and he died in October of 2014. He left no foals, but he left a standard. Jerry Bailey did not become a legend because life stayed clean. He became a legend because he faced what could have ruined him and chose discipline instead. Cigar did not become a legend because he left a dynasty. He became a legend because, for one stretch of time, he made elite racing feel solved. Together they turned doubt into dominance. They mastered pace, position, and pressure, then carried that control from New York to Dubai and back again. The streak ended, but the lesson stayed. Greatness is not perfection. It is repeatable excellence under the brightest scrutiny. If you had to rank Cigar among the greatest of all time, where would you put him, and why?